I'm going to tell you guys a little secret today, and this is going to benefit those of you that travel to France. You know the collection Extraordinaire from Van Cleef and Arpels? The bottles look like this. I've spoken about them. And if you want to find out more about this collection, you can go and search my channel, Van Cleef and Arpels, and you'll see videos about them. Well, Van Cleef Arpels used to have a huge collection of, signature line fragrances because the collection Extraordinaire is their upper end, more luxury collection. One of those fragrances in the original signature line is Pour Homme, Van Cleef and Arpels Pour Homme. Well, it's been discontinued for a while, along with TSAR, another fragrance I wore, and also a feminine fragrance called Van Cleef. So 3 fragrances from Van Cleef and Arpels' signature collection are now available in a collection called Les Classiques, and they are in bottles like the collection Extraordinaire. So this is Pour Homme, and this is TSAR, and then this one is Van Cleef. You can still get these fragrances if you are traveling to France, and I'm going to tell you how coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's Sebastian. We're talking about Van Cleef and Arpels' original fragrances from yesteryear. They've been discontinued. I've been a big fan of Van Cleef and Arpels Pour Homme. Really, really big fan of. And I've also worn TSAR. I've gotten a bit bored of it because I wore so much of it in the early 90s. But both of those fragrances you can still get, as I said, along with a feminine release simply called Van Cleef right here. So as you can see, it's called Les Classiques. Les Classiques is what it's called. And the way you're going to be able to get these 3 fragrances, and I'm about to go back and visit the boutique and see if they have brought back any other classic fragrances into this collection. So if you go to France, in Paris, go to the Place Vendôme and go to the original Van Cleef and Arpels boutique. Right alongside it, right beside it, next to it, there is a perfume boutique which houses all of the collection Extraordinaire fragrances. Like, you can get all of these. And right there also, you will see the 3 Classiques fragrances. And I know there's a lot of fans out there that are wishing to get bottles of Pour Homme and also TSAR, that you can finally get them. But the only problem is you'll have to go there, or if you know someone traveling to France that can get it for you, I highly recommend you tell them to get it. So I brought these back last year from the boutique, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. But the one I'm going to talk to you about first is from 1978. It's simply called Van Cleef and Arpels Pour Homme. So in this collection now, what I should say is what Van Cleef and Arpels currently sells is mostly the collection Extraordinaire, and one classic fragrance in its original bottle, and that is First. If I have a bottle here, I'll show you. First is this one. It's a fragrance created by Jean-Claude Ellena. It's the first fragrance of Van Cleef and Arpels. So that's the only signature collection fragrance from Van Cleef and Arpels you can buy, and that's for the ladies. This is an amazing fragrance, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Originally launched in 1978, created by Louis Monnet. It features notes of leather, rose, carnation, lavender, oakmoss, patchouli, juniper berries, musk, sandalwood, labdanum, vetiver, basil, cloves, jasmine, green notes, caraway, and so on and so on and so on. In the old days, they used to put all these notes. They used to credit all the notes that went into creating a fragrance. And in the old days, the fragrances were pretty hefty, robust eau de toilette concentrations that lasted for days and days and days. I remember when I first got into Muglaire's Amen, or it used to be called Angel Men eau de toilette, that thing lasted. That thing lasted for days. It was such a strong, strong fragrance. And fragrances are not like that anymore. They have eau de toilettes, they have eau de parfums, they have elixirs, they have eau de parfum intense, yada, yada, yada. So do you guys know the way Van Cleef and Arpels Pour Homme smells? I'm going to smell it for you here on camera, and then I'm going to smell the new version of it. What I liked about this, it's a bit piney, and it's spicy for sure. It's got the leather, and it has the pininess. It's very classic. You'll definitely notice the classic. And it's got that rose in there as well. And it's very masculine rose fragrance, I think. Very masculine. Oh man, this is a magical fragrance. Really, really wonderful classic. Really wonderful. Absolutely love it, the way it smells. It's also perfectly balanced, perfectly balanced. Nothing is too sharp and overwhelming. Blending is like one of the best. That's what it takes to make a really smooth. It's loud, it's big, it's beastly, but it's also smooth. Nothing clashes, nothing overwhelms. The blending is just masterful here. I don't know who Louis Monnet is, but whatever he created here is just superb. Superb. So I'm glad to have this, the original version of Van Cleef & Arpels Pour Homme. Let's go ahead and smell the new version in the Les Classiques bottle right here. If anybody knows about how to get these and have seen them at the Van Cleef & Arpels boutique in Paris by the Place Vendôme, do let me know. The way I found out about this is I know someone that went to that boutique that I know here personally, was able to buy these. I believe he bought Pour Homme. And then he told me and I'm like, oh, I'm going. The new version is almost as good as the original. It just seems a bit more faint, but also probably the bottle, the bottling is fairly new. That one that I have, the original bottle, is probably almost 10 years old. It got discontinued around 2018, 2019, somewhere around there. And this version in this Les Classiques bottle is from last year. I bought it last year. So it seems a bit more faint compared to the other. That's the other. To me also, there's something like a old school vibe in the original. It's missing here. So probably what they've done is modernized it a little bit and removed and stripped away that kind of old school vibe. It could also be the IFRA regulations and things like that. Maybe whatever is in that fragrance, whatever is that kind of old school vibe I'm getting is what was banned by IFRA. So it still reminds me of the original, just it's missing, it's stripped away of that little bit of reminder of anything old school. But to me, it's almost identical, which is, it's fantastic. I really love this fragrance. Absolutely one of my favorites. So Van Cleef & Arpels Pour Homme, original formulation here, and in the Les Classiques collection, over at Van Cleef & Arpels. And what I'm going to do is when I go to Paris, I'm going to go back to the boutique and see if they've launched any additional Les Classiques in this collection. Because I'm a fan. I love these fragrances. And these are the fragrances that got me into enjoying fragrances, thanks to family members, especially my dad wearing these classic men's fragrances. And I love them. And a lot of people think I wear too much unisex fragrances, but it doesn't mean I don't like them. The classic masculine stuff. That stuff is amazing. So I don't currently have a bottle of TSAR. I wore the last time I wore it was in '95. Originally launched in 1989 and created by Philippe Bousseton, another perfumer I'm not familiar with. These names are not familiar because I haven't seen their names come up before. I've seen them for these fragrances, but not in other fragrances. So I'm not too familiar with what else they've done. But Van Cleef & Arpels TSAR was a fougere fragrance. To me, it acted like a fougere, whereas Pour Homme acted more like a Chypre. It had that kind of a Chypre DNA, and Chypres were popular in the 70s, and fougères were popular in the 80s. And this is featuring green notes, oakmoss, pine tree, leather, juniper berries, lavender, artemisia, carnation, cedar, patchouli, sandalwood, vetiver, tarragon, geranium, rosemary, musk, and so on, and so on, and so on. There's so many notes. I couldn't put everything here. These are what I pick up with this fragrance. And again, this takes me back because my original bottle was gifted to me by my mom's sister's husband, uncle. So they had gifted that fragrance to me. So I'll always remember him, who's no longer with us, by the way. And so it has memories for me. So I wore a bottle, then I wore another bottle. But then I kind of got bored of it because in the 90s, they were coming out with some more different fragrances compared to what fougères smelled like. So I kind of dismissed TSAR and moved on. But one of the classics that I remember wearing quite a bit of in the early 90s to mid 90s. So let's go ahead and quickly smell this. And it takes me back to the original. And in a bit more subdued way. But for me, I feel like the scent has been kept even better here from what I remember. This, I don't have a current version of the bottle. The scent has been kept a lot more like the original with CLASSIQUES compared to Pour Homme. And Pour Homme is great, don't get me wrong. But I remember I was saying that there's something in that old school DNA in there that seems like it's been stripped away, whereas everything else is staying there. You pick up the notes, but something is missing. But here with CLASSIQUES, it totally takes me back. I remember in the 90s when I was wearing this stuff. And major memories, major. Which is great, because I know a lot of you have come to me and asked me and mentioned CLASSIQUES is great, where you can buy a fragrance. The only problem is getting to France. If you know any family members, friends, relatives traveling there, and you've been wanting a bottle, you can get it from over there now. And it's a great classic men's fragrance from a house that doesn't really do a lot of signature line fragrances anymore. It's all about the collection extraordinaire. And then finally, a feminine targeted release, which came out 4 years after CLASSIQUES. It's Van Cleef. It's simply called Van Cleef. So this one I was not familiar with whatsoever, but I really enjoyed it when I smelled it at the Van Cleef & Arpels fragrance boutique, right next to the jewelry boutique. And I thought to myself, I got to get me a bottle because it smells so good. And it has a note that doesn't really come up quite a bit. It's Tagette, which is marigolds. Very interesting note in fragrances. Do you guys enjoy this note, Tagettes? And do you know what it is? Marigolds are beautiful, kind of colorful, this color flowers, kind of yellowish orange kind of flowers. So this came out in 93. It's created by Pascal Giraux. And once again, I'm not familiar with this perfumer either. So I guess Van Cleef & Arpels had specific perfumers being used for their fragrances that were maybe focusing on their fragrances. I don't know. But Van Cleef & Arpels has released a lot of fragrances that have been discontinued a lot. And again, as I said, the only one that exists now is First. So this fragrance, Van Cleef, features notes of Tagette, which is marigold, tonka beans, geranium, vanilla, galbanum, orange blossom, sandalwood, jasmine, cedar, rose, raspberry, bergamot, musk, and once again, so on and so on and so on. So many different notes. And this is a very interesting combination. You've got warm notes and green notes together. And I like this combination. It's not a usual, it's an unusual combination that works perfectly here. And again, the Tagette is very original. I don't see this note coming up too much. Might be a bit of an old school note like Carnation. And Carnation was being featured in the last two Van Cleef & Arpels men's fragrances, and that's another note that doesn't really come up much anymore. It's kind of an old school note that I think people have gotten tired of. To me, Carnation smells a bit like cloves. It's got that kind of clovey spiciness that I think people associate with old school. So let's go ahead and smell Van Cleef. Let me know if you are a fan of any of these fragrances. Let me know if you are aware of these Les Classiques fragrances selling at the Van Cleef & Arpels boutique in Paris. I don't know of any other place that these are sold at. I did ask them last year, and they didn't say any other place that they were selling at. So this, to me, is quite warm and vanillic. It's got an ambery base, but I'm smelling the galbanum. The galbanum is quite strong. The geranium is quite strong, so having an herbal effect against the syrupy, ambery warmth. The galbanum, that bitterness, resinous, stickiness against the ambery, vanillic warmth. You can smell the orange blossom as well. And also there's a creaminess here. The sandalwood is quite creamy and woody. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And I don't think it's too feminine. It has a kind of a feminine styling. But to me, the fact that it has all those green notes makes it very unisex. I mean, this could be passed for a unisex offering nowadays if it was to launch, sometime now. But I think it's got a bit more softer elegance about it. And I personally think this smell fits Van Cleef & Arpels, the fact that they're this very luxurious jewelry brand, perfectly. So for me, it's the most modern out of the three I'm talking about because it came out in 93 compared to the Pour Homme in 78 and then the CLASSIQUES in 89. So this seems to be the most modern out of all three of them. And I think this, if it came out now, I think there might be an audience for it. Although I think the galbanum might be a bit of a put off, but I could see this being released now in a kind of a niche brand But yeah, really great. This is Van Cleef from the House of Van Cleef and Arpels, a classic fragrance from 1993 brought back into the Van Cleef and Arpels Les Classiques collection. So again, as I said, if you are a fan of these fragrances and you've been wanting a bottle, the only way you can get them is at the Paris Van Cleef and Arpels boutique in the Place Vendôme. There is a Van Cleef and Arpels jewelry boutique there, store. I'm not a jewelry guy, so I would never go there. But I had heard about the store that has the fragrances, and the fragrance store is amazing, most gorgeous, really beautiful. So if you're there, go to the store. You're going to enjoy the store, and really beautiful. It's not that big, but it's perfect because, you know, they don't have too many fragrances. Probably 20 is it. The collection extraordinaire, it has some great fragrances. Moonlight Rose is, oh wait, Moonlight Patchouli is the one I was thinking I grabbed, but I grabbed Moonlight Rose. It's more of a rosy take on Moonlight Patchouli. And this is Neroli Amara from Quinton Biche. But anyway, thanks so much for watching today's video. Let me know your thoughts on these classics fragrances brought back in a special collection. And if you wore these back in the day, or if you're still wearing them because you've got bottles, let me know. And if you didn't know about the fact that they are in this collection, how excited are you to track these down? Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. And also, as I said, if you're curious to learn more about Van Cleef & Arpels fragrances, just search Van Cleef & Arpels on the channel, and you'll find a few additional videos. Bye-bye.